Kathy, did you let everybody in?
Yeah.
Okay, so should I start?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to our information session for applicants to our Brescia Practicum programs. My name is Joy Horde. I'm a dietetic education coordinator and instructor at Brescia. During our webinar today, you're going to have an opportunity to meet some of our staff. And we're also going to, of course, describe our two practicum programs, our DDEPT and our MScFN. And then finally, we will go through the application process in quite a bit of detail. Next slide, thanks. So just a bit of housekeeping. We would like to have you mute your microphone and keep your video off during the webinar. And just so you know, the webinar is being recorded and it will be posted on our Brescia website. And if you think of questions throughout the presentation, we encourage you to type up those questions in the chat and we will address those questions at the end of the webinar. So it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Jamie Seabrook. He is our awesome chair of the School of Food and Nutritional Sciences. Jamie?
Thanks so much, Joy. It's a pleasure to be here. I only wear that on special occasions, by the way. So as Joy announced, I'm Dr. Jamie Seabrook, Chair in Foods and Nutrition. It's a pleasure to be here. And I want to welcome all of you. We have such an amazing program here at Brescia. Brescia is small, so we get to know each other really well, as a lot of you know. We have a very diverse group of faculty and staff, and you've come to the right place. I highly recommend our program, and I'm also going to put in a little plug-in for our amazing dietetic education coordinators. They truly are second to none in how well they treat our students, and they're just all around great people. So pleasure to see you all here, and I look forward to meeting hopefully all of you.
I just want to introduce the team here that's here today, as well as here to support you as you work through the program. So we've got 4 dietetic education coordinators at Brescia: Kathy, Joy, myself, Helen, and Leslie. And then we're supported by 2 fantastic coordinators. We've got Steph, who will be talking more about the MScFN program, and Sierra as well. And so we're the team that supports you as you go through the program. The next slide with the agenda, please. And so today we're going to walk through the practicum programs. We'll talk about the admission requirements and application process. We're going to talk about the program costs and funding, as well as program completion. And then we've got a little snippet about our thesis program if doing hardcore research is something that's interesting to you. Next slide. Okay. So I'm going to be the voice of the diploma program, so the Diploma in Dietetic Education and Practical Training, or what we call the DDEPT program. And Steph is going to be the voice of the Master of Science in Foods and Nutrition, or the MScFN program with practicum. Joy is going to take us through the application process as we get through the slides later on. Next slide, please. I'm going to begin, I'm going to go through a high level of the structure and the length of the different practicum programs. In particular, I'm going to start with the DDEPT program. So the program is full-time over 3 terms, starting in May and finishing up in April the following year. Students begin the program in May and they take 3 online courses in dietetic simulation, regulation, legal, and ethical issues in dietetics, and practice-based research. The practicum begins in June and then continues for 40 weeks. There are practice-based projects that all students complete as part of the DDEPT program. These projects come out of the real-life experience of the dietitians that support our program. These dietitians also play a significant role in mentoring you, the student, through the project. Some examples of our past projects include determining the vitamin D status of hematology patients throughout their stem cell transplant, establishing food system dashboard to create real-life reports of the state of the local food system, developing an evidence-informed plant sterile education resources to support patients implementing portfolio diet, conducting systematic reviews in order to inform dietary management practices in patients with COPD. So as you can tell, these practice-based projects are really practice-based, and these are real-life things that dietitians are going to use to help them do their job better. So it's a fantastic opportunity. The practicum component is the same between the DDEPT and the MScFN programs, and we'll dive into those details in the next slides. But before we go on, Steph is going to walk us through the MScFN program structure.
The MScFN with Practicum program is 5 terms of continuous study. So for those applying now, the program will begin in September 2023 and continue each term until the end of April 2025. Students are enrolled in 2 courses during term 1 and another 2 courses during term 2, making a total of 4 courses over the first 2 terms in the program. During this time, students are also beginning to work with their Brescia faculty research supervisor on their research project. During terms 3 to 5, MScFN students are engaged in their full-time dietetic practicum while completing the research project they began during the first 2 terms of their program. You can find detailed information regarding the courses, faculty, and research by visiting the MScFN program page of the Brescia website. And I'd like to invite Dr. Seabrook to speak in more detail about the research in the MScFN program now.
Thank you, Stephanie. And let me just say, with Stephanie being the graduate program coordinator, she's just absolutely outstanding to work with. And a lot of you will get to know her as well. She makes my life so much easier on a day-by-day basis. So I'm really grateful for you, Stephanie. Yeah, our research program is amazing in our MScFN. Basically, upon starting the program, you will be matched with a faculty advisor, ideally in something of similar research interest. And the project, generally speaking, starts from the ground up, meaning that most projects you'll get going right from the objective, the hypothesis. If you're doing research with human participants, you'll have to go through a research ethics board. And if it's contained the participants only at Brescia, you would go through a Brescia research ethics board. Beyond that, you would go through main campus, generally speaking, the non-medical research ethics board. And that's great experience because you learn actually how to do real research outside of just learning about it, via textbook or slides. And you become directly involved as a researcher. Not all, but many of our MScFN students also get the opportunity to go present at major conferences. Sometimes they're smaller, local. Sometimes they're national. There's even times where we'll go international for those conferences. And we also have the opportunity, again, not all, depends on the project, but some of our MScFN students get peer-reviewed publications, which is really nice. And if you're going through, for example, to become an RD, maybe you can gear some of that research to your area of interest. And if you're interested in the thesis stream, all that will mean is in year 2, you will stay put essentially and continue to work on your research via a thesis and get a little bit more heavily involved. But really, both our one stream and our thesis stream, both the streams, the research is really second to none in the sense that we have such a diverse group of faculty with so much different interest. And I think that's a really good thing because it allows you to diversify your skills. We put equal value to qualitative and quantitative research. I happen to be epidemiologist / statistician. So I do most of my research is quantitative based, but I give the same weight to qualitative. So there's an opportunity to get involved in both qualitative and quantitative research. And the other thing I'll just say really quickly is you would start with my course with Dr. Twinestor right away, which is nutritional epidemiology. And it's a really, really fun course if you were in the MScFN program. Both streams are amazing, and I think you making the right choice by considering us here. Thank you.
The next cohort of students we expect in our program is we expect to offer 30 to 35 DDEPT positions and 15 to 20 MScFN positions. Of these positions, 9 will be based at London Health Sciences and 12 at Hamilton Health Sciences. Other students will be based at locations or hubs throughout the province. You should expect your placements to be full-time. That is 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday, with work on the evenings sometimes and weekends sometimes. You should expect to travel and relocate throughout the practicum. Students in the MScFN with practicum and the DDEPT programs must have access to reliable transportation to get to placements, including getting to places where public transit may not be available. Students are expected to manage their own travel arrangements to placement sites at their own costs once the practicum starts. You'll be asked to indicate your top 3 location preferences for your application. As you can see, we have practicum hubs throughout the province, from Windsor to Owen Sound, Grey Bruce to Eastern Ontario. Each location has advantages that you should consider when making your location preference. Regardless of where you're placed, expect that you may have to drive longer distances to get to your placement. Out of province and international placements may be feasible, but they do require months of planning to set up. Russia has education partnerships and agreements with many organizations, including Hamilton Health Sciences and London Health Sciences Centre. Both are large teaching facilities and tertiary care centers that support a dedicated cohort of students. I am the dietetic education coordinator for Hamilton Health Sciences cohort, and my office is located at the Hamilton General Hospital. HHS is a community of 15,000 staff, physicians, researchers, and volunteers with multiple hospital sites across the Hamilton community. We offer adult and pediatric nutrition care learning experiences. Students with the HHS program complete 22 weeks of clinical placements. Once students are placed with HHS, those that are interested in pediatrics will have the opportunity to apply for a pediatric-focused nutrition care training. HHS also supports food provision, population health promotion, and practice-based project placements for all students. Food provision at HHS is managed by Compass One Healthcare. Our Shine Wellness program supports population health promotion placements for some of our students. And students in the HHS cohort can expect to have a majority of their placements in the Hamilton and Niagara area. Please visit the HHS website to become familiar with the clinical services offered at our organization and for more details about the practicum experience at HHS. I'd like to invite Kathy to speak a little bit more about the experience at the London Health Sciences Centre.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kathy. I'm one of the education coordinators, and I'm responsible for overseeing the students in the London Health Sciences Centre cohort. And just to note, we also have another London cohort that completes placements in the London area, but who isn't at LHSC. And that is a cohort that had a little more flexibility. And the LHSC, the London Health Sciences Centre cohort, is certainly a clinically focused practicum that I'm going to tell you a little bit about. So LHSC, it's home to the Children's Hospital, University Hospital, Victoria Hospital, the Kidney Care Centre, the London Regional Cancer Program, and also an off-site eating disorder And a fun fact is it is the largest employer in London, and there are 15,000 staff, physicians, and residents. And they see over 1 million patients per year. So that's a lot. And as I mentioned, the LHSC practicum has a strong clinical focus, and it really is ideal for a student who is considering a career working in a hospital-based acute care setting. Students will complete 19 weeks, and that's 4 clinical placements at LHSC in a variety of areas. And some of the areas there could include, and this isn't everything, but just some examples, cancer care, children's care, clinical neurosciences, critical care, eating disorders, mental health, renal care, surgical care, women's care, and a transplant unit. In addition to the time at LHSC, students will also complete a 3 to 4 week diabetes placement with an external organization. And some students will also complete their food service while at LHSC. Generally 4 students a year will do their food service there, and other students might do it with an external partner. And generally the population health placements when you're in the LHSC cohort will be with external partners. So there is some opportunity to explore other organizations and opportunities, but as I mentioned, it does have a strong clinical focus. So again, really thinking about when you rank those choices, just consider what your career goals and your interests are when considering LHSC. And certainly if you have any questions, check out the link and you can check out their website, and you're also welcome to contact us at fnsgrad@uwo.ca. We'll be sharing that email, I'm sure, throughout the presentation. It's kind of our hub. So yeah, I will hand it back to Helen.
As you consider your preferred location, I encourage you to research the various potential placement organizations within each geographical hub to understand what each of them have to offer. Does this align with your career goals? Do you have specific learning interests? Consider your personal resources, access to accommodation, and the cost of travel and parking. Take time to reflect on your personal goals for the practicum year. Do you want to be close to home, close to friends or family? Or do you want to go somewhere you haven't been to experience a new place? Do you prefer to remain in one geographical area, or does exploring dietetic practice across several locations interest you? Next slide, please. You should also know that when you are accepted into the program, you will be assigned a dietetic education coordinator or a DEC based on your geographical location. Your DEC has built relationships and connections with many organizations in your geographical area. Each practicum is designed so students have the opportunity to develop the skills they need to achieve the competencies, which is one of the requirements needed to write the Canadian Dietetic Registration Exam. You and your DEC will work with your learning needs and your interests, along with the resources and capacity in your area to map out an individual placement schedule. Each student has a unique schedule, and no 2 placement schedules are the same. Overall, all students will have a minimum of 16 weeks in nutrition care. Those are placements at hospitals, long-term care homes, family health teams, and diabetes education centers. 6 weeks in food provision. Those are often at food service departments in hospitals, in long-term care homes, and in industry. 6 weeks in population health promotion, and those placements are often at public health units, community health centers, or with private practice dietitians. The key difference between the master's and the DDEPT schedules is the number of weeks dedicated to research or the practice-based projects. The flex weeks can be assigned across nutrition care, food provision, population health promotion, and the practice-based project. Keep in mind, though, that students in some cohorts, like at London and Hamilton, have less flexibility than other cohorts in determining these weeks. There's a little more than a week of education sessions scheduled before the start of the practicum in June, and then we have monthly sessions throughout the practicum. Vacation time is not flexible and is scheduled over the December holidays. The total time for the practicum portion of the program is 49 to 52 weeks in the MScFN program and 44 to 46 weeks in the DDEPT program. What can you expect from your placements? Placements will offer you the opportunity to practice and develop important skills in dietetics and dietetic abilities. This might look like nutrition assessment for nutrition support for a patient newly admitted with a stroke. It might mean developing, implementing, and evaluating a health promotion program, or coordinating a quality assurance activity in a food service department. We encourage you to get involved and take advantage of all the learning opportunities available to you in a placement. Learn from the other members of the team. Go see a swallowing study or a GI scope. Attend a meeting with the leadership team. Get out and connect with your local community. The DDEPT admission requirements are as follows. We're looking for you to have an undergraduate degree from a PDEP or Ascend, which is the US from the United States, accredited dietetic education program from 2020 or later, or to have achieved a level 1 on the College of Dietitians of Ontario Knowledge and Competence Assessment Tool. We're looking for a minimum of a 70% GPA in your final 2 years of your accredited program or in the last 10 full course equivalents. English literacy is required. In order to verify that you've met our admission requirements, you will be asked to upload your unofficial transcript or your KCAT result if applicable. And we're looking for a confirmation of completion of a PDEP or an Ascend accredited program.
Similar to the DDEPT program, an undergraduate degree from a dietetic education program which is accredited by PDEP in Canada or Ascend in the United States from 2020 or later, and English literacy are both required for the MScFN with Practicum program. Undergraduate courses in research and statistics are also required, as well as a minimum average of 78% on the last 10 full course equivalent credits. This typically represents the last 2 years of your education and is calculated by counting backwards from your most recently completed course, excluding any first-year grades. This has been a quick overview, so I'll encourage applicants to review the detailed list of admission requirements that are noted on Brush's website. And over to Joy.
Okay, now we're going to get into the details around the application process. Many of you may know that last year we revised our admissions process, and the intention of that was to try to minimize potential bias. So we're using a very similar approach this year. So for the next several slides, we're going to describe in detail what our application process involves, starting with this slide that outlines the 3 critical components of the application to our DDEPT program. So the first component is the university application, which involves uploading your transcript and payment. The second component is the CASPER test, which is an online situational judgment test. And I'll be explaining that a little bit more in upcoming slides. And the last and final component is what we call the OWL assessment. So OWL is our learning platform. So this assessment will be completed on that platform. Please keep in mind that all 3 components of this process need to be completed for you to be considered for our program. You do not have to complete these in order, however. And also keep in mind that Unfortunately, our system is unable to track admissions across platforms. So you're not going to be receiving an email that says that you've completed certain components. So you're going to have to track that yourself. We do have a checklist available that's on our website that you can either fill in online or print off, and you can use that to track your progress through the application. Next slide, Kathy. Okay, so in terms of the MScFN program, it is going to be slightly different from last year in that there will be interviews with faculty this year. But the first 3 components that I just described for the DDEPT program they're exactly the same for the MScFN program. So you need to do all 3 components, plus you're going to have an interview with a faculty member. So the interview will be brief, roughly 10 to 15 minutes, and it's going to be done virtually via Zoom. And it's going to take place during the February reading week. Now, also, the focus of the interviews is going to be on research. And again, just to remind you that our system doesn't track admissions across these platforms, so you're not going to be receiving an email confirming that any of these parts are complete. You'll have to kind of keep track of that yourself. Okay, so we do use what we call a blinded application review. What does that mean? So basically, the team members that are going to be making decisions about admissions, they are going to be blinded to applicant name, academic transcripts, your Casper score, and your references. And then we have team members that are going to be doing more of the administrative aspect of the application, and they will not be blinded, so they will have access to your information. But however, they will not be making any kind of decisions. They won't be involved with who we accept and who we don't accept. And then the blinding will be removed prior to sending out our admission offers. Okay, next slide. Thank you, Kathy. So now we're going to sort of move into more details about each component of the application. So I'm going to invite Helen and Stephanie now to jump in and explain a little bit more detail about the application component.
For the DDEPT program, the application is open on November the 14th, and it closes on January the 16th at 4 p.m. And this is a firm deadline, so please make sure you have everything in for us by 4 p.m. on January the 16th. The application fees last year were $75, and I believe this year is going to be the same. We have lots of details on our website, so please go there for a step-by-step guide around the application process.
Applications for the MScFN program will be accepted between November 14th and January 16th. And this is also a firm deadline. The application fee is $125. Before starting your application, you most definitely should review the information found on the Brusha website at the link showing on this slide, or by accessing the How to Apply section of the MScFN with Practicum program on the Brusha website. There you'll find very detailed information to help you understand the application process with a checklist of what will be required with your application, and the link to begin your application will be there for you as well. Okay, and back to Joy.
Thanks, Steph. Now we're going to move into talking about the Casper test, which is, of course, the second component of the application process. So Casper is what we call an online situational judgment test that assesses non-academic competencies. So completion of this test is required for application to both the DDEPT and the MScFN programs. If you're applying to both, you only need to do it once, which I'm sure you're going to be glad about. You may wonder, why are we using this test? Why are we getting you to do this CASPR? So as per the quote on this slide from the Altus website, so Altus is the company that developed the CASPR test, you are more than your grades. So we agree with this, and we recognize that there are skills and attributes that are just as important as grades. So we want to ensure that not only are you academically capable, but you also have the personal and professional qualities or the soft skills that will make you more likely to succeed in practicum and as an RD. So the CASPR test reliably assesses 9 personal qualities and skills, and these are listed inside the stars on this slide. So some examples are empathy, your ability to problem solve, collaboration, self-awareness, and so on. Next slide, please. So how the CASPR test is set up, you're going to be given either video or written scenarios, and you're going to be asked, what would you do in this situation and why would you do it? And you'll be given a choice of either typing out your response for some questions, and then some questions will require you to do a video recording or an audio answer. The test normally takes 100 to 120 minutes to complete. The cost to applicants is $40, plus there is an additional $16 distribution fee for every program that you may apply to. So these final points, they're highlighted for a reason. They're really important. And we definitely want to emphasize that, first of all, that to please register for the test 3 days in advance. And then we strongly advise you to do the test prep and review the test tips on the Altus website. So the reason I highly recommend doing that is it is a really different kind of test. It's unlike probably any test that you've done during your undergrad. So it's what we call like a competency-based test. So it's actually a really hard thing to really study for, but you can prepare. You can be more prepared for it. So if you go to the Altus website, they have amazing tips for how to improve the likelihood that you're going to do well on it. They also have example scenarios that you can actually practice and work through and practice, going through the process. And I think that could really make a difference for you in terms of succeeding on this test. Okay, I think we're ready to move on. And then in terms of the test dates, there will be 3 different test dates that you can choose from. So you're going to be choosing one date out of the 3. So November 24th and December 8th at 5 o'clock. And the final one is on January the 10th at 8 o'clock p.m. Please note, these are the only dates that are offered. So if for some reason you don't do one of the tests on one of these dates, unfortunately, you will be ineligible for admission to our program. So very important to note that. Okay, so now that we've talked about CASPR, we're going to move into the final component of the application process, which is the OWL assessment. If you apply to both programs, please note that you will need to do this process twice, once for each program. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to set up your OWL account. So you will recall that the OWL is our learning platform. So you're going to do this between November 14th and December 22nd. And you're going to email, here's the email address again, fnsgrad@uwo.ca. And your subject heading will be OWL application process. And then in the body of the email, you're going to include your name and you're going to confirm which programs you're applying to or which program. So either DDEPT, MScFN, or both. And then you will receive an invitation to the OWL site within about 48 hours, keeping in mind through Monday through Friday. Okay, so part one of the OWL assessment, you're going to be acknowledging that you have reliable transportation to placement, and you will be declaring your that you're up to date with your COVID vaccination status, which is very important in practicum because many of our organizations will require that. You're going to be choosing your top 3 geographic location preferences. And you're also going to be listing references. So you'll need to list 2, and at least one needs to be professional. So what do we mean by professional reference? So a professional reference is somebody that supervised you in a work or volunteer experience. And really any referee should have firsthand knowledge of your abilities. So it's someone that directly oversaw your work, and they're able to speak to your skills and how they think that you would perform in a practicum program. So keep in mind that the referees do not have to fill out any form. They do not have to write a letter. So we only need their contact information only. And finally, for the MScFN students, they're going to, in this section, outline their research interests and preferred faculty supervisor. So part 2 of the OWL assessment, you're going to be uploading your resume. And a few important points about resume. When you're listing your work and volunteer experience, please make sure that these pieces of information are included. So the name of the organization, what your role or position was there, and your main accomplishments. Also very important, and that's why it's underlined, please don't forget to include total hours per experience. Because if we don't have this information, it's really hard for us to know, how deep your experience goes. So please don't forget that part. The other thing here to consider is that we want you to think about other experiences that you may have had that are not directly related to dietetics. Because we recognize that more than dietetic related experiences can prepare you for practicum. So you might have very important transferable skills from non-dietetic related experiences. For example, maybe you worked as a waiter or a waitress, or perhaps in a bank. In any of those roles, you're going to be developing leadership skills, communication skills, definitely problem-solving skills. And those are all important skills to bring to practicum. So don't forget about those experiences. If you're wanting more information about what type of skills we're looking for, a good place to start would be to review the ICDEPT, so the Integrated Competencies for Dietetic Education and Practice. And they are available online. So you just have to Google ICDEPTs, the 2020 ICDEPTs, and have a look through those. And that should give you an idea of some of the things that we're looking for. So in this section of the assessment, there's also supplemental questions, which I think are listed on the next slide. So you're going to be asked 3 questions. Number 1, you're going to describe how your past experiences and skills have prepared you for succeeding in practical dietetic training. So you're going to really be thinking about your experiences, the skills that you have that you developed in those experiences, and then connect them to how that's going to help you in dietetic practicum training. And then the second question is, tell us about a challenge or barrier you experienced related to your nutrition, education, work, volunteer, or even extracurricular activities. What happened? What happened in that experience? What did you do and what did you learn from it? And lastly, what else did you want to tell us about why you are a great candidate for our program? So with this one, you're going to share a brief audio response with the admissions committee. So you will have to have a microphone, just to keep that in mind, to be able to do that piece. I forgot to also mention that when you're answering question number 1 and question number 2, that we will have a 200-word limit on those responses. Okay, next slide. Okay, so to summarize, you will need to complete all 3 components of the application process for your application to be considered complete and to be considered for admission to our program. The deadline for a complete application is Monday, January the 16th, 2023 at 4:00 p.m. And I believe Stephanie is going to jump in.
For both the DDEP and the MScFN with practicum programs, communication throughout the application process will be sent to you by email. This could include questions regarding your application and important updates throughout the selection process. For the MScFN program, invitations to interview will be managed through email as well. Please use the same email address for all application components. And for those currently enrolled in school, we do recommend using your school email address to minimize the possibility of issues with spam trap delays. We encourage applicants to check their inboxes daily, as responses will be required within 24 to 48 hours. And be sure to watch your junk and spam inboxes. Next slide. The notification of acceptance to both programs will be made to successful applicants starting in early March 2023 and will continue until all positions have been filled. This process will extend throughout the month of March and possibly into April. As mentioned, applicants should watch their email account daily, as the timeline to respond to offers could be as little as 24 hours, and not responding to an offer of admission could result in losing the offer altogether. We do ask, however, that applicants reply to us and let us know either way whether they are accepting our offer of admission. I can't stress enough how appreciated and how important consistent communication with our office is throughout this process.
The cost of a full DDEP program includes three terms of tuition, the ancillary and placement fees. Tuition cost is different if you are an international student. In all cases, if you have questions around our tuition payments, please go to the Brescia website for detailed tuition information. Tuition
for the MScFN program is $4,702.43 for each term. This fee includes tuition and ancillary program fees. And the fees I'm quoting here are the fees students are paying this year, which could be slightly different next year. Next slide. Costs beyond tuition. For students in both dietetic practicum programs, the costs beyond tuition will include costs related to professional memberships, events and training, as well as immunizations, police checks, mask fit testing, and costs associated to the logistics of practicum, such as relocation and accommodation, parking, gas, and other car-related costs. And Helen?
Yep, DDEP is an OSAP eligible program. Bursaries and scholarships are available through Brescia. Again, please come visit our website and you'll find more information about bursary and scholarships.
The MScFN program is also an OSAP eligible program. For applicants to the MScFN program, there are 2 scholarships available through Western University Graduate Studies. These are the Ontario Graduate Scholarship, or OGS, and the Canadian Graduate Scholarship, or CGS. Please find information regarding eligibility, application process, and how to apply from the Western University Graduate Studies Scholarship website. For those interested, I'll encourage you to seek out this information as soon as possible, as the deadlines are time sensitive, with the CGS deadline coming up on December the 1st. This does not leave a lot of time to get references and other items for the application in place. In addition to those 2 scholarships, students in the MScFN program will be encouraged to apply for employment at Brescia as course assistants, markers, and proctors, as well as a number of Brescia donor-funded awards. Additionally, MScFN students in past have received a stipend at the beginning of the 3rd term to assist with program expenses just before practicum begins. The amount is subject to administration and government funding, but this year was $3,500 for each student. Back to Helen.
Successful program completion will offer you a Western Diploma in Dietetic Education and Practical Training, or a Western Master of Science in Foods and Nutrition. Program completion also qualifies you to write the Canadian Dietetic Registration Exam. Historically, over 80% of our graduates find dietetic-related employment within 6 months of graduating. And just a couple events coming up that I wanted to let you know about. Check back to our website regularly for details about our meet and greet with current students and recent grads. This will be scheduled in late November and is a great chance for you to come and ask some of your questions directly to those who have been in the program. If you find yourself in the London area on November the 12th, stop by Brescia and check us out. You have a chance to meet a dietetic education coordinator and Brescia faculty in person at our fall preview day.
The MScFN program has another program stream which may be of interest to some of you. It's the MScFN thesis-based program, and instead of a dietetic practicum, the focus is on developing advanced research skills. The MScFN thesis-based program offers students the opportunity to strengthen their research skills through advanced coursework and thesis development under the guidance of a faculty supervisor. This program is 5 to 6 terms of full-time continuous study in length. Students are enrolled in 2 courses in each of the first 2 terms of the program, and during the remaining terms, students focus on their research and developing their thesis. As this program does not include a dietetic practicum and does not prepare students to write the Canadian Dietetics Registration Exam and become a dietitian. We have had several students, however, who have applied to this program in past after completing their dietetic practicum program to embrace their interest in research and complete a thesis. This program prepares graduates for fulfilling careers in research with organizations such as private corporations, government agencies, health charities, research management agencies, medical institutions, and in academia. Graduates may also continue their education by enrolling in PhD programs. For this program and the 2 dietetic practicum program options that we spoke about today, you will find detailed information regarding the program structure and all things admissions by visiting each individual program page of the Brescia website.
Thank you, everyone. I know we went through a lot of details with you today. I wanted to let you know that our this webinar is going to be posted and will be shared back with you, so you can always go back and review certain components. And as well as I'm sure you heard multiple times, we've got lots of information on our website. Please take some time and scroll through there as well. You'll probably find a lot of your questions are answered that way. If you have specific questions about your specific situation, you can always email us at fnsgrad@uwo.ca. However, if you've got questions for us right now, we're here right now and we're willing to stay on for for a bit longer. So I see that Leslie's been doing a fantastic job of answering questions as we went through the presentation. But if you have any questions now, if you want to put them in the chat, and we'll read them out, and we'll share the answers with everyone else that's here.
Thanks, Helen. I noticed that as well. Thank you, Leslie. But I think for the purposes of the recording, we'll go through all of them for the people that weren't able to come today, so they can benefit also from this information. So the first question is there any pathway for an internationally trained dietitian to apply for DDEPT or MScFN? So the reply was yes, the College of Dietitians KCAT assessment is the route to take. A level 1 result on this assessment is required to be eligible to apply. So yes, you can go to the College of Dietitians website to get more information about that. And then there was another question, I think, related to this. Another issue is for this assessment, the dates are not prior to the dates of application for applying in the DDEPT or MScFN. Can you guide how to overcome this issue? So Leslie recommended asking the College of Dietitians of Ontario to offer more dates to write the KCAT. If there is a sufficient demand, they may provide more options. The next question, what should we expect to tell our references? Is there going to be a standard letter of recommendation required? Is Brusha going to send them an email for the letter of recommendation? So there's quite a few. And then there's another question regarding references, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, Leslie does. Okay. What if my professional reference has retired and does not have a company email address anymore? Is that still applicable? So Leslie's response, referees may or may not be contacted during the application review process. A retired referee can provide a personal email, but should be prepared to answer questions related to your experience in the work volunteer setting. Does anybody want to add to that answer from the coordinators, or should I just continue? Okay, I'm going to continue then. Sorry, I lost my spot. Oh goodness. Okay. The question is, are geographical location preferences usually granted? I don't think this one was answered.
It was a little bit later on, so I can definitely paraphrase Leslie's response.
Oh, I do. No, I
Yeah.
do see it. Well, let me read this out for the purposes of the recording, and then we'll go from there. So Leslie responded, most students get placed in one of their top 3 location choices. Students are ranked and are assigned to locations in order of their ranking. So students admitted last may not receive one of their top location preferences. I guess she's answering questions about resume here too. A standard 2-page resume is required. Do not use a font that is so small that it's difficult to read. Very good point, Leslie. Thank you for stating that. Does anybody want to add anything more regarding geographic choices?
No, but I do want to add to the resume answer, and that is to remember to remove identifying information, and that will free up some space for you. So remove that header with your name, address, etc. Remember, we can't see that, so it should be a nameless resume.
Oh my
and that will
goodness.
give you more space.
Thank you, Leslie. I forgot to mention that again, so thank you so much. There's some thank yous. You're welcome. If you don't pass the Casper test on the first try, for example, on November 24th, can you rewrite it during one of the other 2 dates? You are only allowed to write it one time. And it's it's not really graded in the traditional way that you would think. So like it's not really a pass fail kind of thing. So, but anyway, to answer your question, you're going to be just writing it the one time. I guess the other piece is that you're not going to know whether you passed or failed because you're not going to get the results. So. Okay, the next question, just want to make sure that we don't have to submit a statement of purpose. You do not need to submit a statement of purpose. Answer that one. Do you accept applicants from other provinces? And is there a percentage of people getting spots outside of Ontario? I'm not sure if this one was answered. Does somebody want to answer this question?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to get applications from all over Canada. We welcome candidates from every province and territory. And there is no percentage. It just depends on your package and how it's assessed and where you end up in the rankings. So in the past recent years, we've had applicants from both coasts, east and west of Canada. So we definitely look forward to receiving applicants packages from all over Canada.
Thanks, Leslie. Somebody asked what the international student fee structure looks like.
That's available on our website. So if you go to Money Matters, you'll find tuition, and international student tuition for the DDEPT program is equivalent to fourth year undergrad international tuition. And maybe I'll let Stephanie address that for the MScFN program.
So for the MScFN program, the tuition breakdown is actually on the Western Graduate Studies website. And you can access that website just by going through to our Brescia website and looking under the tuition area for the MScFN program, and it'll link you right through where you can see all of the details about tuition.
Great. Thank you, Leslie and Steph. Next question. What does the last 10 full course equilibriums mean as someone who is coming from a different university?
That would be 20 half courses. I know a lot of other schools have only half courses, which last one semester. So it would be your most recent 20 of half courses. Does that make sense? I'm not sure if that answers what you're looking for.
And excluding first year courses in that
Right.
20, yeah.
Yeah.
So usually it works out to be roughly your last kind of 2 years of school. That gives you an idea.
Good. Thanks, everybody. There's another question about references. For references, we are required to submit 2, at least one has to be professional. Are academic references recommended or required?
I can answer that.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah, and feel free if anyone wants to jump in and add anything when I'm done. No, 2 professional references is fine. We encourage you to pick somebody who can speak to the skills you could bring to a practicum, and for the MScFN also those research skills. But there's lots of jobs or volunteer opportunities where maybe that's going to be the person who knows you best. And, we understand, sometimes it's hard to get to know a faculty member, so it can be a little bit harder to get those academic references. So again, we want someone who can just speak to who you are. If you have a good relationship with a faculty member and you feel like they can really provide a strong reference, we encourage you to consider that as well. But again, it doesn't have to be an academic reference isn't required.
Thanks, Kathy. The next question is relating to the resume again. Was the 2-page resume for the master's and not the DDEPT? I thought we uploaded our information on the OWL. I mean, I can answer that. So remember in the webinar that I mentioned that the first 3, not necessarily the first 3, but all 3 components, so the application, the CASPER, and the OWL assessment, all apply to both programs. So whether you're applying to DDEPT or MScFN, you'll be doing those 3 components. So that includes the resume upload. So that's part of the OWL assessment.
And I'll just jump in for a sec here, if that's okay. That was one
Yeah.
thing, just if anyone did do the application last year and they're applying again this year, we've changed it a little bit. Last year, we had like a free form where people could enter their resume details, but this year we're going to ask again, it'll be within the OWL assessment, like Joy said, and you'll just upload like a Word or PDF document. There'll be some specific instructions within OWL on what to do, but yeah, this year we're just looking for that 2-page resume with no name or contact details on it. So that traditional header piece, we're asking you not to put any information in there.
It looks like there's another question similar. Whether the resume applies to DDEPT as well. So as I just said, for both, they'll be doing that piece. For the MScFN practicum stream, is the research self-conducted or more of a review?
So I'm not sure entirely what that question means, but it's not, so students are working with a faculty research supervisor who will oversee all aspects of the research that's being done. Hopefully that answers that.
And there's a lot of variation.
Yeah, there's collaboration though too. It's a very collaborative process between you and the faculty member.
Mm-hmm.
Some students have done systematic reviews as their project, if that's what that question is relating to. And others do, actual lab experiments or, community studies. There's the whole range. So it's definitely whatever the project that the faculty member is initiating and working on that the student will be involved in.
If you're interested in one versus the other, those are important things to include in those questions in part 1 of the OWL in terms of what your research interests are. And then, yeah, go to our website and see what the faculty are doing and what they're into, and you'll probably find yourself a match.
Thanks, everybody. Next question. For total number of hours for experience on the resume, are we allowed to say, for example, and this is in quotations, over 100 hours, or would you prefer a specific value? I can answer this. We prefer a specific value, please. Does anybody want to add to that? Okay. It looks like Stephanie has referred students to, or applicants to, our website to find out more about tuition fees. So again, another plug for our website, lots of info there. Will you review all applicants' applications after the deadline, or once you get the completed materials from an applicant, you will start to review? Yeah, we won't be doing anything. We won't be doing any review until that deadline. Do you recommend us to submit all materials as soon as we can?
As long as it's by the deadline, again, I think each student needs to look at their capacity, their coursework, like when's the best time for you to work on the application where you can dedicate some time to it. So again, as long as it's submitted by the deadline, we don't really take into consideration when in the admission, in the application period when it's open. That's not a factor we consider in terms of admissions. So as long as it just needs to be submitted by that deadline, because then we do want to move forward. We have a pretty systematic process for reviewing, and especially with the blinding piece. Yeah, that's why it's just very important to get it in by the deadline. But beyond that, whenever, consider your own personal circumstances.
I agree with Kathy. I'll just add the one thing I would recommend doing as soon as possible, and definitely before you start any piece of the application, is reading through all of the components. Go to the website, read through, understand what's going to be expected, so that you can start to piece out for yourself when you're going to do what piece. So
great advice, Steph. And I was just going to say too that, yeah, I 100% agree with that. That, you know, it is going to take some time on your part to do a good job of this. So don't leave it to the last minute. That would be my strong recommendation.
And actually, just one other point, the one thing you do need to do as well a little bit earlier is just getting you set up on your OWL account. So we asked to do that by, I think it was December 22nd or 23rd. The date was in the slides, but because we have to manually, that's a manual
22nd
process on our end. Yeah, okay, you have to have that done by the 22nd. It's a manual process on our end. Brescia closes for part of the holiday, so we just won't, there won't be staff here to add people. So again, that was the rationale and the importance of just getting your OWL set up, and then you can work on it whenever it's set up. You can work on it when you, wherever you've blocked out time.
So I think that's the end of the questions in the chat. Were there any other questions that you would like to ask before we sign off? Anybody? Okay, it looks like no other questions are coming in. So thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope it was helpful. And you kind of know, you have a better idea of our programs and our team and what you need to do to apply. So we welcome your applications. So have a great weekend, everybody. And thanks again for joining.